Commander Lyrax observed the human settlement from her hidden position on the forested hill, her purple skin blending with the shadows as she adjusted her scanner. The device hummed softly in her six-fingered hand. She watched with growing fascination. Susan. Walsh moved through her garden with practiced ease. She had no technology to guide her, yet she knew exactly which plants needed water, which ones required shade, and which ones were ready for harvest. Her simple cotton dress swayed as she worked. Her blonde hair, tied back with a piece of cloth Lyrax, turned to her companions, two fellow Zarthian scouts who shared her mission to study the primitive species of this backwater planet. Nyla, the youngest among them, fidgeted with her equipment. Her bright blue skin marked her youth among their kind next to her. Talia, the weapons specialist, remained completely still, her dark green skin helping her blend perfectly with the surrounding vegetation. "These humans are strange," whispered Nyla. "They have achieved basic space travel and primitive computers. Yet they still grow food by hand when they could use synthesizers. That is precisely what makes them interesting," replied Lyrax, her voice low and melodic. "They choose not to abandon old ways even as they develop new technologies." The three scouts had been observing this particular human female for 3 full cycles of this planet. Susan lived alone at the edge of a larger settlement in what the humans called a cabin. She grew her own food, crafted her own tools, and appeared completely self-sufficient. Yet she also possessed a communication device and what appeared to be a primitive computer inside her dwelling. Our initial reports classified humans as primitive, but potentially dangerous, said Talia, her eyes never leaving the human female. I did not understand that assessment until now. Look how she adapts without technology. Susan had encountered a problem. A small animal had damaged part of her garden fence rather than call for assistance or use tools beyond her immediate reach. She quickly gathered fallen branches, wove them together, and repaired the fence in less than 30 minutes. Her hands moved with remarkable dexterity and purpose. Zarthians had long ago forgotten such basic skills. Their civilization had advanced to depend entirely on neural interfaces, advanced fabricators, and artificial intelligence systems. A typical Zarthian would starve if placed alone on a habitable planet without technology fleet. Commander Vexra had sent Lyrax and her team specifically because of this unusual human trait, the ability to function efficiently without technology. The Zarthian Empire had conquered 12 star systems, but humans presented a unique challenge. Susan suddenly stopped working. Her head tilted slightly to one side as though listening to something beyond normal hearing range. She placed her gardening tools down carefully and walked with deliberate steps toward the edge of her property, directly toward the hidden observation post of the 3 alien scouts. "Impossible," whispered Nile. "Our cloaking field is perfect. No primitive scanning technology could detect us. Yet she knows we are here," replied Lyrax with a mixture of alarm and admiration. Susan stopped exactly 20 paces from their location. She knelt down and placed a small arrangement of berries and flowers on a flat stone, then backed away slowly before returning to her garden. "It is an offering," said Talia, her voice revealing rare emotion. "She knows we are watching, and she has left us food as a gesture." The implications troubled all 3 scouts. Their entire mission was based on the assumption that they could observe humans undetected. If this simple human female could sense them through their most advanced cloaking technology, what else had their intelligence reports underestimated? When darkness fell over the landscape, Susan lit a small fire outside her cabin. She sat beside it, staring up at the stars with a knowing smile on her face. The 3 scouts watched from their ship, having retreated to discuss their findings. Fleet Commander Vexra received their report with growing concern, her silver skin reflecting the soft light of the ship bridge, her tall, slender form towering over the scouts. "The human detected you through our best cloaking technology?" asked the commander, her voice sharp with disbelief. "Yes, Commander," confirmed Lyrax. "She sensed our presence without any detectable scanning devices. She then left an offering of food as if welcoming unseen visitors." "This changes everything," said Vexra, pacing the bridge. "Our entire assessment of human capability must be re-evaluated." The Zarthian Empire had encountered many species across the stars, but none quite like humans. Most conquered civilizations either had advanced technology but lost connection to their natural environment, or remained primitive without technological development. Humans seem to maintain both paths simultaneously. We have become so dependent on our technology that we have forgotten fundamental skills of survival and perception. Said Vexra, these humans have not. They live in harmony with their natural world. While still advancing technologically, each human is self-sufficient, adaptable, resourceful. And if we attempted conquest, asked Nyla the question that troubled all present extinction for us, answered the commander grimly. They would survive the loss of their technology. We would not. Their primitiveness has preserved the very skills our advancement has erased as the alien ship orbited silently above Earth. Susan Walsh sat by her campfire watching the stars above her. She smiled. Knowing the visitors had accepted her offering, she had felt their presence 3 days ago, a subtle disturbance in the energy around her property. Nothing technological, just the same awareness her grandmother had taught her to cultivate. The universe was vast, but humans would be ready when they officially made contact. They would show these advanced beings how to reconnect with what they had lost. Their fear would turn to respect, and perhaps humanity would teach the stars what it truly meant to be alive. 2 weeks passed since the Zarthian scouts first observed Susan Walsh. The mission parameters had changed drastically. Following her detection of their presence, Commander Vexra had ordered a different approach. Lyrax stood at the edge of the forest, no longer hidden by cloaking technology. Her purple skin visible in the morning light, she wore simplified clothing, designed to appear less threatening, though still clearly not human. She took a deep breath and stepped into the clearing. Susan looked. Up from her garden, her expression calm, showing no surprise, she straightened, slowly wiped soil from her hands onto her apron and smiled. I wondered when you would decide to say hello, she said, her voice steady. I enjoyed the carved stone figure you left by my offering. Lyrax felt a mixture of shock and admiration. This human had not only detected them, but had found the small token of appreciation she had left 3 days ago. I am Lyrax of the Zarthian research vessel, Harmony, she said, using the translation device embedded near her throat. I come with peaceful intentions. Susan nodded. I know, she replied. I am Susan Walsh, though you already know that. Please come sit. Would you like some tea? The casual acceptance of an alien visitor disturbed and fascinated Lyrax in equal measure. She followed Susan to a simple wooden table near the garden, where a pot of water already heated over a small fire. From the orbiting ship, Nilay and Talia watched the encounter through Lyrax's recording devices. Vexra stood behind them, her silver face unreadable. This is unprecedented, said the commander. No first contact protocol has ever progressed this smoothly. The human shows no fear, no aggression, just acceptance. Perhaps she is not representative of her species, suggested Talia. Perhaps she is an outlier. Vexra shook her head. Our expanded observations show similar traits in many humans. They adapt, quickly accept new information, and integrate it into their worldview without losing their foundation. On Earth. Susan poured steaming liquid into 2 cups, offering one to Lyrax. The alien took it, carefully examining the simple clay vessel. You make these yourself? Asked Lyrax. Susan nodded. I enjoy creating things with my hands. There is satisfaction in shaping clay into something useful, something beautiful. The connection between maker and material is important. Lyrax sipped the herbal drink, finding it pleasant. Her scanner discreetly confirmed it was safe for her biology. You are not surprised to meet someone from another world. Susan. Susan smiled gently. My grandmother told me stories of visitors from the stars. She said they would come first to watch, then to learn, then perhaps to share. I have felt your presence since you arrived. How? Asked Lyrax. The question that had troubled the Zarthian scientists. Our technology should make detection impossible. Susan pointed to birds in nearby trees, to insects buzzing around flowers, to subtle changes in air currents. Everything is connected, she explained. When something new enters an environment, everything responds differently. The birds fly different patterns. The insects change their behavior. Once you learn to read these signs, nothing remains truly hidden. This awareness without technology troubled Lyrax deeply. Zarthians had long ago surrendered such perceptions in exchange for advanced systems. They had evolved away from natural connection, believing technology superior in our world. We lost this connection centuries ago, admitted. Lyrax, we rely entirely on our devices to interpret reality for us. That seems lonely, replied Susan with genuine sympathy in her eyes. Lonely. The concept struck Lyrax profoundly. Zarthians were never alone. Their neural networks kept them constantly connected to their collective knowledge. Yet somehow this human had identified a fundamental emptiness in their existence. Susan showed Lyrax her small cabin. Its simplicity belied its functionality. Every object served multiple purposes. Nothing wasted, nothing without meaning. She demonstrated how she collected rainwater, generated small amounts of electricity through solar panels, preserved food without refrigeration. You balance old ways with new technology, said Lyrax. Susan nodded. We try to. Some of us better than others. Humans are still learning this balance. Many of us rush toward technology, abandoning wisdom of the past, but some of us remember the old ways as daylight began to fade. Susan invited Lyrax to stay for the evening meal. The alien hesitated briefly before accepting the invitation. She sent a quick update to the ship where Vexra made the unprecedented decision to allow the extended contact in the small cabin. Susan prepared a simple meal of vegetables and grains. She explained each step of the process to the fascinated alien. Food tastes better when you grow it yourself, when you know the soil and the seasons, said Susan. Placing a plate before Lyrax, she had carefully prepared foods compatible with Zarthian biology. We have no concept of growing food in our society, said Lyrax. Our nutrients are synthesized for optimal efficiency, all identical, all perfect. But without soul, suggested. Susan. Lyrax had no response for this concept. After the meal they sat outside watching stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Susan pointed out constellations, explaining human stories associated with each pattern. Your species sees meaning in random star arrangements, asked Lyrax. Humans find meaning everywhere, replied Susan. It helps us connect to the universe, to each other, to ourselves. We create stories to understand our place in existence. On the ship, Vexra watched the exchange with growing interest. This changes everything, she said to her officers. These humans have something. We lost something precious. Their primitiveness preserved what our advancement destroyed. In the morning, Lyrax returned to the ship, her mind filled with new perspectives. Vexra called an immediate council meeting based on Commander Lyrax's contact. We must reconsider our approach to humans, said Vexra. They possess qualities our civilization needs, qualities we have engineered out of ourselves in our pursuit of technological perfection. What do you suggest, Commander? Asked an elder council member, his tone cautious. I propose a cultural exchange, said Vexra, rather than conquest or traditional diplomatic relations. We should learn from them while offering our knowledge in return. They maintain balance between nature and technology, between individual resourcefulness and collective advancement. The council debated fiercely. Some members argued humans were still primitive, dangerously unpredictable. Others saw opportunity for mutual growth. Vexra waited patiently for consensus. 3 days later, Lyrax returned to Susan's cabin, this time accompanied by Nayla and Talia. Susan welcomed them warmly, having prepared extra cups for tea, as if expecting multiple visitors. We wish to propose an exchange of knowledge, said Lyrax formally. There is much our civilizations could learn from each other. Susan smiled, her eyes reflecting starlight, though it was midday. I would like that, she said simply, and I know others who would as well. But slowly, gently. Some humans will need time to adjust to your existence. Wisdom. Again, thought Lyrax, this simple human understood the complexities of first contact better than many Zarthian diplomats. She felt a new emotion forming, respect tinged with something unfamiliar, something like humility. 1 month after first contact, the cultural exchange began. Susan Walsh introduced Lyrax, Nyla, and Talia to 5 carefully selected humans, each representing different aspects of human experience. Mary Olson, a doctor who combined modern medicine with traditional healing practices. Kimberly Jacobs, an engineer who specialized in sustainable technology. Patricia Wilson, an elderly teacher who preserved historical knowledge, Laura Smith, a young digital artist who created virtual worlds, and Diane Foster, a farmer who used both ancient and modern agricultural methods. The Zarthian Council had approved limited exchange, but remained cautious. They authorized sharing basic technological knowledge while learning human adaptability skills. Commander Fexra personally supervised the program from the orbiting ship. Today we learn about human medicine, said Mary as the group gathered in her small clinic built beside a community garden. She was a woman in her 50s with gray streaking her brown hair, her hands steady and strong from decades of healing. Nyla activated her recording device, eager to document everything. The youngest Zarthian remained the most enthusiastic about human ways. Our civilization illness is almost non-existent, explained Nyla. Our bodies are enhanced genetically and supported by nanomedicine. We simply do not experience disease as you know it. Mary nodded thoughtfully while organizing herbs and modern medical supplies on a wooden table. That sounds wonderful for preventing suffering, she said, but I wonder what happens when your technology fails, when you must rely on natural remedies or your own body's healing abilities. Nyla blinked, her blue skin darkening slightly in the Zarthian equivalent of a blush. We have no alternative systems. She admitted we would simply die. Mary shook her head gently. Humans balance many approaches to healing, she explained. She demonstrated how she created medicines from plants alongside using modern pharmaceuticals, how she taught patients to support their own immune systems while providing advanced treatments. Our bodies know how to heal, she said, placing a hand over her heart. We simply help the process along, sometimes with technology, sometimes with nature, always with wisdom. That afternoon, Talia joined Patricia, the teacher, in her classroom filled with books, actual physical books, something Zarthians had abandoned centuries ago. Knowledge should exist in many forms, explained Patricia, running her hand along leather-bound volumes. We preserve information in multiple ways: digital, electronic, paper, oral tradition. Each has advantages, each survives different disasters. Talia considered this on her homeworld. All information existed only in the central neural network, accessible instantly by any citizen but vulnerable to system failure. What happens when you lose power? When systems crash, asked Patricia gently. We would lose everything, admitted Talia, understanding for the first time the wisdom of human redundancy. Patricia smiled warmly. We humans learned this lesson through hard experience, she said, showing ancient texts alongside modern tablets. We forget, then remember, then forget again. But some of us always remember to keep knowledge in forms that survive when technologies fail. Across the settlement, Laura, the digital artist, showed Lyrax how humans created virtual worlds in our civilization. Virtual reality replaced actual reality. Long ago, explained Lyrax. We spend most of our existence in simulated environments. Laura looked troubled by this, her young face concerned. But how do you know what is real? Then how do you stay connected to the physical world? To actual consequences? Lyrax had no answer. We create virtual worlds for entertainment, learning, exploration, said Laura, activating a beautiful simulation of underwater scenes. But we return to reality to feel sun on our faces, to grow food, to build with our hands. The virtual enhances reality, it does not replace it. Meanwhile, Kimberly, the engineer, showed Nyla human approaches to technology. We design systems humans can repair with basic tools, explained Kimberly, demonstrating how a solar panel could be fixed with simple components when necessary. We build in manual overrides for computerized systems. We ensure technology serves us rather than controls us. This redundancy seems inefficient, observed. Nyla. Kimberly smiled gently. Efficiency is not always the highest value, she replied. Sustainability, adaptability, resilience. These matter more for long-term survival. In the evening, they gathered at Diane's farm, where she demonstrated techniques for growing food without modern equipment. Every human should know how to grow something edible. She said, her hands dirty from working soil. Even our most advanced scientists, our virtual designers, our space explorers, they all benefit from connecting to this basic process of nurturing life. The Zarthians watched fascinated as Diane explained crop rotation, companion planting and seed saving alongside modern hydroponics. You maintain ancient methods alongside new technologies observed. Talia Diane nodded. Wisdom exists in both. She replied, one does not cancel the other. They complement each other aboard the ship. Commander Vexra reviewed the day's recordings. With growing interest, they have achieved something we lost. She said to her officers, a balance between advancement and foundation, between progress and roots. They move forward without severing connection to their origins. Not all humans maintain this balance, warned her science officer. Many embrace technology, exclusively rejecting natural systems, true, acknowledged Vexra, but enough preserve this wisdom to teach others when necessary. Their civilization maintains options. Ours does not. The exchange continued for weeks each day, bringing new revelations to both species. The humans learned advanced mathematical concepts, energy manipulation theories, and communication technologies from the Zarthians, while teaching fundamental survival skills, artisanal crafting, and environmental awareness. In return, Susan and Lyrax developed a close friendship, spending evenings discussing philosophy beneath stars. Your people fear our primitiveness, observed Susan one night as they sat by a campfire. Lyrax considered this carefully before responding. We fear what we have lost. She admitted, your species reminds us of qualities we engineered away, believing them unnecessary. Seeing you maintain these abilities alongside advancing technology forces us to confront our vulnerability. Susan nodded, understanding. Our strength is not our technology, but our adaptability, she said softly. Humans can lose everything we have built and begin again. We have done so many times throughout our history. The knowledge lives in our bodies, in our communities, not just in our machines. This revelation sparked intense debate among the Zarthian Council, some members arguing that humans represented an existential threat precisely because of their adaptability, others seeing an opportunity for Zarthian evolution. 3 months into the exchange program, a crisis emerged. The Zarthian ship detected a massive solar flare heading toward Earth, one powerful enough to disable electrical systems across half the planet. Should evacuate our team. Immediately, said the security officer aboard the ship. Humans will face significant challenges. Vexra studied the data thoughtfully. This presents an opportunity, she said. We will observe how humans respond to technological disruption while offering limited assistance. When informed of the coming flare, Susan and her companions showed no panic. We have procedures for this, said Kimberly, the engineer, simply. We will shut down sensitive systems, store vital data on shielded devices, and prepare for manual operation of essential services. The Zarthians watched in amazement as humans across the region implemented emergency protocols without fear, without confusion. Communities activated backup systems, positioned analog equipment, and prepared for temporary return to simpler living. This would paralyze our civilization, said Nyla. We have no alternative to our technology. Perhaps that is what we should learn from humans, replied Lyrax, watching Susan calmly storing food and water, checking manual tools, and preparing lanterns. When the flare hit, electrical systems failed across the region. But humans continued living, continued working, continued thriving. They used skills preserved across generations to maintain community function. Without modern technology watching from their shielded ship, the Zarthian Council faced an uncomfortable truth. Humans were not primitive. They were complete. They had achieved something far more advanced than mere technological progress. They had created balanced civilization. 2 days after the solar flare, electrical systems remained offline across the region. Susan and her community operated with practiced efficiency, using alternative methods for communication, cooking, medical care, and water distribution. The Zarthians observed with growing respect. This was not mere survival. It was functional living without modern technology. Lyrax joined Susan as she coordinated community efforts from the town meeting hall, a simple wooden building now serving as emergency headquarters. Your people seem almost happy despite the disruption, said Lyrax. Susan smiled as she checked handwritten lists and assigned tasks to community members. There is satisfaction in remembering old skills, she explained, and proving we can manage without our devices. Some of us secretly welcome these moments. They remind us of our capabilities. Across the room, Mary, the doctor, treated minor injuries using both modern medical knowledge and traditional remedies. sterilizing instruments over flame, preparing herbal treatments when pharmaceuticals were unavailable. Nearby, Patricia organized children into learning groups, continuing education without digital tools. Learning never stops simply because screens are dark, she told Lyrax. Knowledge lives in people, not just in machines. That evening, Commander Vexra made an unprecedented decision. She came to Earth personally, joining her team in the human settlement, her silver skin and commanding presence drawing curious but respectful glances from humans. Needed to observe this phenomenon directly. She explained to Susan when they were introduced the adaptability your species displays contradicts everything we believed about technological progress. Susan welcomed the commander to their community, Fire, where residents gathered to share information, coordinate the next day's activities, and simply enjoy companionship. Notice how they communicate without neural networks, without instant messaging. Observed Vexra to Lyrax, yet information flows efficiently throughout their community. Through stories, songs, face-to-face conversation, replied Lyrax, methods we abandoned centuries ago, as darkness settled over the community. Humans brought out musical instruments, playing songs that carried through the night. Air children and adults danced together around the fire, sharing food prepared over open flame. What purpose does this serve? Asked Nylea, genuinely confused by the gathering. It strengthens bonds, explained Kimberly, who had joined the Zarthians. It reminds us we are not alone, that together we can overcome challenges. It preserves cultural memory through shared experience. The concept of community resilience without technological connection fascinated the Zarthians on their homeworld. Citizens lived increasingly isolated lives connected only through virtual interfaces. Physical proximity had become unnecessary, even uncomfortable. Across 5 days without power, the human settlement demonstrated remarkable resilience. They maintained food distribution, sanitation, education, and even artistic expression using methods preserved across generations. On the 6th day, as the Zarthians helped distribute water from the community, a new crisis emerged. Our sensors detect a second solar flare approaching, reported Talia after receiving communication from the ship. This one potentially stronger than the first. The Zarthian Council has offered evacuation for your community, said Vexra. Formally, we can transport essential personnel to orbital safety. Susan considered this offer while consulting with community leaders. They discussed options while the Zarthians waited, expecting immediate acceptance of their technologically superior solution. We appreciate your generous offer, replied Susan finally. But we will remain here together. Vexra could not comprehend this decision. Our analysis indicates significant risk to infrastructure and potential danger to vulnerable populations. Susan nodded, understanding the concerns, but our community has weathered such events before. She explained. We have procedures, generations of knowledge about managing without technology splitting. Our community would cause more harm than temporary physical discomfort. Seeing the commander's confusion, Mary the doctor joined. The conversation. In your civilization, individuals might survive better separate from others, she said gently. But humans thrive through connection. Our resilience comes from community, not just from technology. This challenged everything. The Zarthians believed about evolutionary advancement. They had pursued technological sophistication, believing it represented progress. Yet here they witnessed humans consciously choosing seemingly primitive conditions to preserve something the aliens had lost. The second flare hit 3 days later, knocking out backup systems, and newly repaired infrastructure power would remain unavailable for weeks. The Zarthian ship itself suffered minor damage, requiring repair. Now we face the same conditions as humans, said Vexra to her crew. We must land the ship and conduct repairs without full technological support. Lyrax recognized an opportunity. Commander, she said respectfully. I suggest we integrate with the human community during repairs rather than remaining isolated. We could learn their adaptation skills directly. Vexra approved this unprecedented protocol breach. The Zarthian crew would live among humans while repairing their vessel. Susan welcomed the entire crew, 20 Zarthians, into the community, assigning them partners to teach essential skills while they contributed their knowledge to human efforts. The integration proved challenging. At first, Zarthians had evolved away from many physical tasks, their bodies unaccustomed to manual labor, their minds trained for abstract technological thinking rather than practical application. Zella Zarthian engineer struggled to light a simple fire without technology. Your hands know what to do, said Diane the farmer, demonstrating again the movement of creating friction. The materials needed, the patience required. You must feel the process, not just understand it intellectually. Across the settlement, similar scenes unfolded as humans patiently taught aliens skills their civilization had abandoned centuries before: how to identify edible plants, purify water without filters, create simple tools from available materials, preserve food without refrigeration. Equally valuable, Zarthians taught humans advanced mathematical concepts, helped design improved water management systems, and shared medical knowledge that could be implemented without technology. This exchange happened person to person, without data transfers, without neural downloads. Knowledge passed through demonstration practice and personal connection. Most revealing to the Zarthians was how humans incorporated play, rest, and celebration into their daily lives. Despite challenging conditions, you work efficiently, yet include activities with no survival value observed. Vexra, to Susan as they watched a community dance during an evening break. Susan smiled. These activities have tremendous survival value, she replied. They preserve our humanity, our connection to each other. They remind us why survival matters. In the first place, 3 weeks into the blackout, the Zarthian crew completed their ship repairs but made no move to leave. Instead, they continued learning human ways while offering their knowledge in return. Lyrax and Susan walked through forest paths, gathering medicinal plants, the Zarthian now able to identify useful species without scanning technology. I begin to understand why your people were classified as dangerous, said Lyrax, carefully selecting leaves as Susan had taught her. Susan looked up questioningly. Vexra explained it to me, continued Lyrax. Your adaptability makes you impossible to truly defeat. Even if we destroyed all your technology, you would survive. You would rebuild. You maintain knowledge. We have lost. Susan considered this as she added plants to her basket. I suppose that might seem threatening from a certain perspective, or inspiring, suggested Lyrax. Our civilization faces a crisis of vulnerability. We became so dependent on our technology that we engineered away the very qualities that might save us if that technology failed. The two walked in comfortable silence before Susan spoke again. Perhaps that is why our paths crossed, she said. Not for conquest, not for traditional diplomacy, but for mutual salvation. You remind us not to abandon our advancement, while we remind you not to forget your foundations. Aboard the orbiting ship, the Zarthian Council received detailed reports of the exchange occurring on Earth. Many remained skeptical. Some argued for immediate withdrawal. Others saw unprecedented opportunity. The humans have activated something in our crew, reported one observer. Something we believed engineered away centuries ago. Curiosity, suggested another. Or perhaps adaptability. Something more fundamental, replied the observer. Something dangerous, something essential, corrected Commander Vexra, joining the transmission connection. 6 months after first contact, the Zarthian High Council summoned Commander Vexra and her team back to their homeworld. The cultural exchange with humans had extended far beyond its original parameters, creating both excitement and concern among Zarthian leadership. The night before departure, Susan hosted a gathering for the Zarthian visitors. Humans from the community brought food, music, and handmade gifts for their alien friends. The atmosphere was bittersweet, filled with genuine connection that neither species had anticipated. Lyrax sat beside Susan, watching firelight illuminate the gathering. Her purple skin now weathered from months of outdoor activity, her posture more relaxed than when she first arrived. I returned to my world, changed, she said softly. Susan nodded, understanding. Your people fear this change. They do, replied Lyrax. Our civilization values consistency, predictability, control. What I have learned here threatens those values. Across the gathering, Nyla played a simple wooden flute crafted by Patricia, the teacher. The young Zarthian had shown surprising aptitude for music, something their species had nearly abandoned in favor of perfect synthesized sound. Nearby, Talia demonstrated fire-starting techniques to Zarthian crew members, her once rigid military bearing now balanced with fluid natural movement. Vexra observed it all with complex emotions. Her role as commander required objective reporting to the council, yet her experience among humans had transformed Her understanding of advancement in the morning, the Zarthian ship prepared for departure. Susan and her community gathered to say farewell, each human embracing their alien counterparts, a gesture the Zarthians had initially found uncomfortable but now welcomed before entering their ship. Vexra addressed the human community formally. "We came to study what we believed was a primitive species," she began, her voice carrying across the gathered crowd. "We depart, having discovered a civilization that has achieved balance we long forgotten. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your community, your connection. We will carry these lessons back to our people." Susan stepped forward, presenting Vexra with a simple wooden box. Inside lay seeds from Earth, plants, a journal with handwritten knowledge, and small handcrafted tools, symbols of regeneration, knowledge, and creation. She explained, "Tools for your people to remember what they once knew." Aboard the ship, as Earth diminished behind them, the Zarthian crew experienced unexpected emotion. Many had formed genuine connections with humans, had rediscovered physical skills. Their civilization had engineered a way, had remembered what it meant to exist in harmony with a natural world. The journey home took 3 weeks, during which the crew practiced skills learned from humans, maintaining manual dexterity, preparing simple foods from base ingredients, and most significantly, gathering in person rather than through virtual connection to share experiences. Upon reaching the Zarthian homeworld, the contrast became immediately apparent. Their civilization of perfect technology, efficient systems, and isolated individuals suddenly seemed sterile, empty, despite its advancement. The High Council convened in a vast chamber, its members connected through neural interfaces, while physically present, a concession to the returning crew, who had requested direct interaction. Commander Vexra presented her findings, systematically detailing the unexpected discovery that human primitiveness represented not evolutionary backwardness, but deliberate preservation of essential skills. Humans maintain multiple systems for survival, for knowledge transmission, for community cohesion. She explained, they advance technologically. Without abandoning fundamental capabilities, they adapt to changing conditions without losing their essential nature. The Council listened with growing concern as Vexra continued, "Our own civilization faces existential vulnerability," she said directly. "We have engineered away the very qualities that ensure long-term survival in exchange for short-term efficiency. We cannot adapt without our technology. We cannot survive system failure. We have no redundancy." This assessment created immediate division among Council members, some dismissing human adaptability as irrelevant to an advanced species, others recognizing profound implications for Zarthian evolution. Most troubling, a senior Council member noted, is the effect on our research team. They return changed, questioning our fundamental approach to civilization. Lyrac stepped forward at Vexra's gesture. "We return improved," she said confidently. "We maintain all our technological knowledge while regaining capabilities our species abandoned. We can now function without complete system support. We can adapt to unexpected conditions. We have remembered what it means to connect directly with our environment and each other, to demonstrate." Her team performed tasks without technological assistance, creating fire, preparing food from base elements, communicating through direct speech rather than neural connection, abilities that astonished the Council. "This is dangerous regression," warned one Council member. "You have abandoned evolutionary advancement for primitive techniques." Nylia, the youngest, responded with newfound confidence. "We have gained integration," she said. "These are not competing paths, but complementary ones. Humans taught us that advancement includes preserving fundamental capabilities, not just replacing them with technology." The debate extended for days, dividing Zarthian leadership between those who feared human influence and those who recognized opportunity for their own civilization. Ultimately, the Council reached an unexpected conclusion. They would establish a formal cultural exchange program with Earth, sending Zarthian students to learn human adaptability while offering technological knowledge in return. But most significantly, they would implement a revolutionary initiative within their own civilization, reintroducing manual skills, direct communication, and environmental connection, alongside their advanced technology. 1 year after first contact, Susan Walsh stood in her garden, watching a new group of Zarthian visitors learn to plant seeds in earth soil beside them. Human students examined Zarthian energy manipulation techniques. The exchange now formalized between both worlds. Lyrax, now serving as exchange coordinator, joined Susan in the garden. Your influence spreads. Through our civilization, she said, some resist believing we sacrifice advancement, but many recognize we are recovering something essential, something we nearly lost forever. Susan smiled, watching aliens and humans working together, sharing knowledge. Across species, across philosophies, there is room for both. She said, for technology and tradition, for progress and preservation, for innovation and remembrance. The wisdom is in the balance. Across the galaxy, the Zarthian civilization began slow transformation, relearning skills their ancestors had deemed unnecessary, creating redundant systems beyond technology, establishing direct community connections alongside virtual ones. They had encountered many species in their exploration of space, had shared knowledge, with advanced civilizations had conquered primitive ones, but humans had transformed them in unexpected ways. Humans remained technically inferior, their technology centuries behind Zarthian advancement, their civilization fractured and imperfect, yet they possessed something the Zarthians had engineered away, something essential for true evolutionary success: adaptability, connection, resilience. The Council had classified humans as primitive yet dangerous. Now they understood why humans represented not an evolutionary step backward, but a profound reminder of what advancement truly required. In her cabin at day's end, Susan sat with Lyrax, watching stars emerge above Earth, the same stars visible from the Zarthian homeworld connecting their civilizations across space. We feared your primitiveness, said Lyrax softly. And we were right to fear it. Susan looked questioningly at her friend. Your primitiveness revealed our vulnerability, continued the alien. It showed us that true advancement preserves essential foundations while building new possibilities. It showed us that we had not evolved beyond you, but had evolved away from ourselves. Susan nodded, understanding filling the silence between them. In quiet moments like this, humans and Zarthians found common ground, discovered shared purpose, recognized that different evolutionary paths might lead to the same essential truth, that connection transcended technology, that wisdom required both advancement and remembrance, that the universe offered enough space for many forms of intelligence. The stars above witnessed this unexpected communion between species, the beginning of transformation for both civilizations, humans learning to balance their technological growth with ancient wisdom, Zarthians remembering qualities they had nearly forgotten they had been right. These aliens who came to study primitive humans, humanity was indeed primitive, and that primitiveness had saved them from the greater danger of forgetting what it meant to be alive.